All right, y'all. My apologies for being late. I logged in, but it didn't kick me back out. But today we want to jump right in as I reveal, explain, illuminate, and simplify the hidden esoteric meaning of the gospel. Specifically, we break it down Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18. For it is God who gives us the power to get wealth. This scripture, man, this is really powerful. It's also in the New Testament. In the book of Matthew, also in Mark. It's all throughout the Bible. I mean, there's numerous scriptures we can use, especially Matthew 8. I think it was 13 that I shared with you guys in the text. The reason why this is so important is because if I go through life, especially when we talk about entry level versus advanced. When I mean entry level versus advanced, I mean that we as individual expressions of God on earth, as I talked about earlier in my Facebook Live today, it's very important that we grow. Everything in life is about growth. It's about evolving. If you look at nature, everything grows. We got seasons. Things rise and they fall. Things do what we call decay. And it's very interesting, man, as we go through this. And I delve into it a little bit more inside the book. But today, we just want to lay the foundation, especially as I've been going through and establishing the new Destiny report, playing around with all this AI stuff and establishing these apps, and it really delves into the true base core. Everything says the same: causality, reality. And I don't know how, I talk to people every day, and the hardest thing for people to understand is, we've been given. Now, I understand this is why I don't really argue or debate with Christians, because we've been given everything that we need for life and godliness, and we've been given. So we got it. So God gave it to us. Now you could argue and debate, but at the end of the day, you got it. So that simply means it's done unto you as what you got. So as I talked about earlier today, the science behind understanding, bias. We all have confirmation bias. We all have different levels of awareness and consciousness. We all have a bias. In other words, we all got a belief system. That's all a bias is. But there is something in science called self-consistency bias. There's a young African American lady named I don't know the lady. I just seen some of her videos. Her name is Jasmine P. Green. So Jasmine P. Green talks a lot about self-consistency bias. I talk a lot about identity bias and identity confirmation. The Destiny report is based upon D.E.S.T.I.N.Y. D stands for D.E.S.T.I.N.Y. E stands for ecosystem. So there's a ecosystem that comes from your D.E.S.T.I.N.Y. D.E.S.T.I.N.Y. was given to you by God. So we all have innate attributes and characteristics that's been given. So we have been given. And this is why I scratch my head every day that I listen to, the way we talk. The way you talk, that determines the way you walk. And the way you walk determines the way you talk. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Again, we can argue and debate. I'm not here to argue and debate. I'm here to educate. Fruit, fruit, fruit. That's it. Show me the nail scars in your hand, man. Yeah. When we're talking about this stuff, it's very important. People can't produce fruit with negative frequency. You can tell because they stress the bomb out. I know a lot of people that are successful based upon the world definition of success, but their health is gone, their marriage is gone, their kids is freaking whack, everything's whack. But they claim that they water walkers. They claim that they tongue talkers. But look at the fruit, man. Look at the fruit. Now again, I ain't pointing fingers at nobody, because I know every time you point a finger at somebody, there's four more pointing back at you. All I'm simply expressing, exposing, and expanding to you today is that the purpose, the destiny, the reason for you being on this planet is to expand your consciousness. Period. Point blank. Jesus came that you may have life and life more abundantly. Life is about growth. It's about moving forward. It's about enlarging your tent. It's about establishing heaven on earth. And man, it's crazy. I mean, I get it. Like when I was a kid growing up, the old people, like I thought they was like, yeah, they was kind of slow. And now that I'm the old people and the young people, they look at the old people and they say, yeah, they're kind of slow. It's like every generation thinks the previous generation is garbage. from the perspective of they smarter than us. I look at the 20s and the 30s and the 40-year-olds, and they believe that they're smarter than the 50 to 60 to 70-year-olds. And I just sit back and it's funny because I always remember the words of both of my grandparents, especially it was called Big Mama Eileen, and then we had Big Mama Frazier on both sides of my dad's side of the family. We had my dad's mom, we called her Little Mama. So I grew up thankfully around some elders, and I remember Big Daddy didn't say much. I also had on my dad's side of the family, we called him Granddaddy, and the men, man, I like being a man because men don't talk a lot. I remember I would ride with my grandfather. It wasn't very often, but me and my brother Glenn would ride to school every once in a while. Like he would bring us home from football practice, and Granddaddy, like he wouldn't talk. He didn't hardly sit down. Big Daddy, I could sit down and talk with him a little bit. Granddaddy didn't say too much. Everybody was afraid of him. At least I know I was. I mean, Granddaddy didn't play. I mean, I saw the way, his sons, like my father, my uncle that's recently passed, Uncle Larry, Uncle Raymond, I saw the way they was raised. And I was like, man, like Granddaddy special. Like I didn't want none of that. But Granddaddy used to always talk to me. He used to see me in the halls in school. He was the janitor at the school. And he was like, boy, you doing what you supposed to be doing? What you doing in the hallway? Ain't you supposed to be in class? Like I said, that's all he said. He was all about discipline. He was all about, putting in work, doing what he worked sun up to sundown. He was old school. And all of his results was based upon his efforts. Now, it's very interesting in both sides of the family. Like, I don't remember, maybe he did, I don't know. I don't remember Granddaddy or Big Daddy. I know Big Daddy would go, for my memory, that's not that great. I don't remember the men being that involved in church as the women were. Even today, I go to church and I see it's 90% women. Again, African American churches. I don't know about white folks. Maybe they're different. But in black church, because when I talk to men, I go to church with my wife, and when I talk to men, I say, hey man, how come you don't go to church? They all say the same thing. The reason I don't go to church. So I don't go to church to learn anything. I just go to church to support my wife. Because when I'm sitting there in church, I'm bored. There ain't nothing for me to do. So men, ladies, I don't know if y'all know this or not. So if you got a man, lady, he needs something to do. So most women that are single, they single because every man that they get, he can't do nothing for you. You do everything. I tell my wife this all the time because, like she's high speed. She's like my sister Brenda. She don't really need a man. So I tell my wife, because in the beginning of our marriage, the reason that when I did step out and the reason that I did have the issues was exactly that. I ain't have nothing to do. So I connected with somebody who saw my worth and value and gave me something to do. And it's really easy, ladies. It ain't rocket science, but the church has the same problem. We ain't got nothing to do. When a man goes to church, he just sit in the back and listen to the preacher. Well, the man needs something to do. That men, we need purpose. It's different. That's why men don't go to church. If you talk to any man at the base and at the core, now a lot of this, all problems in my 60 plus years experience is based upon what the young lady was talking about in the TikTok video, Jasmine P. Green, as she talked about, I call it identity switching, identity placement disorder. The term she used was self-consistency bias, same frequency. So the inability for you to consistently establish a self-identity leads to a bias that is not the vibration equivalent of source. What does that mean in English? In English, that means that the way that you see yourself is the way the preacher tells you to see yourself. You're a sinner. You're worthless. You're well done. Without Jesus, you're garbage. You was born garbage. You garbage. Since you have that self-construct, now I got 60 plus years of experience, and I see the young folks that coming in, I look at their eyes when the preacher is talking about worthless, you're going to hell, you're going to die. And I remember my kids when I was a preacher, and I used to tell them, especially my son BJ, he used to tell me, damn, Dad, he was in middle school. Why am I going to school? I remember talking to my daughter Sade, she used to tell me the same thing. And I just, It's wild, Dr. Martinette, and we still doing it. And I remember because when I did it to my children, Brother Mitch, I did it, bro. I didn't read it in the book, Brother Mitch. I did this. I fucked my kids up, Brother Mitch. I told them the same shit that was told to me. And it's wild, and I see it now, and I see it. So when I go to church and the little kids, they come over to me, and I see it in their eyes. No reason to live. Because why? Because they know they can't do, but they're afraid. And the only things you can't do in life is be afraid. Because that creates the nervous system. When it's in a state of anxiety, it's called dorsal vagal nerve collapse. I got all the proof. I got 100 grand to the Negro or the non-Negro who want to debate. Now, I recommend you go to ChatGPT or, AI, or go call your doctor and ask your doctor what is dorsal vagal nerve collapse. And you will see every damn near that I know. Now, Negroes, we still talk about the white man. We don't know that all our issues come from the South. Every issue. I cannot think of one issue of any black American that I know of. What are we calling ourselves these days? Dr. Martinette, what we call ourselves these days? Are we still black folks? Are we back to being colored? Anywho, everything is dietary related. It's not diet. It's mental. It's psychological. There ain't no demons in not well, let me rephrase that. Brother Mitch, have you seen a demon or devil, Brother Mitch? I ain't seen one, bro. So I'm not saying they don't exist, Brother Mitch, but I just ain't seen one. All my problems, Brother Mitch, have been self-induced, my brother. I can go back from when I was 5 years old. My grandmother said me, boy, don't chunk rocks at my chickens. Now, Brother Mitch, there wasn't no demons and no devils around us. Hey, boy, go chunk rocks at them chickens. It was me, Brother Mitch. I just had a very curiosity. I was curious, like, what happens if the rock hits the chicken? So, I found out. Chunk the rock and hit the chicken. Chicken may pass out. Might kill the chicken. And that's going to result in something called punishment, as I learned as a kid. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't let's use the word influence. You could say that was like, maybe you're born with. I know I was born with a disposition, Brother Mitch. Now, could it have been generational? Maybe I inherited that disposition from my biological father. Generational curses that it talks about in the Old Testament. Okay, I'm not denying that. I'm saying. So could that be the bad guy everybody talks about? Could that be the devil? Absolutely, that could be him. However, we talk about lust. We talk about the fruit of the flesh. When we look at psychology, what is the difference between psychology and demonology? I've studied both, Brother Mitch, and they're pretty much the same. So modern day psychology is yesterday's demonology. Let me say that really slow for the high vibrational that keep it on in the back. Modern day psychology is King James demonology. So I got rid of all my demons. Brother Mitch, I got rid of all my demons with psychology. So whole time I was licensed and ordained and preaching, Brother Mitch, 30 plus years, my brother. None of the problems went away. Preacher preached, we prayed for me on Sunday. I was right back out there in the streets on Monday. I'm watching the next generation doing the same shit, Brother Mitch. But when I say, hey, bro, if you want to get rid of your issues with being faithful to your wife, set up a one-on-one, holler at your boy. You want to get rid of your money problems. You want to get rid of that, that extra layer of fat. And whatever it is that you want to do, there's a step-by-step system already in place because somebody else already did it. You don't have to consult no curanderos. Now you can, don't get me wrong. You ain't got to, throw no salt over your left shoulder. You ain't got to burn no sage. Dr. Martinette, we don't have to consult the ancestors. We don't have to call down fire from heaven. Now we can. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not an either and or. Because the reason that all that stuff works is because you believe that it works. Like they tell you in every movie. It's done unto you, as even in the Bible, as I said in Matthew 8:13 and Deuteronomy 8, and there's 1,000 scriptures out there. They all say the same thing. It is mine. I'm just dumbfounded because at the end of the day, we give our power away. I don't know why. At the end of the day, we give our power away. So how do we give our power away and how do we get it back? That's why I'm in business. So I'm in business every day because I just wait till people get 30, 40, 50 years old and they've been hitting that brick wall every day, Brother Mitch, just like I did. And then they get burnt out and then they either ready to divorce their wife or their husband. Or they did like me, they went through 68 jobs or they started 23 businesses and they all failed. Or they had 16 cars repoed and 8 houses foreclosed on, whatever the situation is. They get burnt out, Brother Mitch, and then when they get burnt out, that's when Negroes go to church. Then when that don't work, what happens? Well, they become an alcoholic. They get a vice. They get a coping mechanism. That's why I wrote the book, Brother Mitch. I didn't read it. I didn't read it in the book. I wrote the book. Coping mechanisms. I got a book full of coping mechanisms. When I go down, I have an older brother, stepbrother, his name's Calvin. I went down, hang out with Calvin, and I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. I drive through Katy at least once or twice a month. And I never stop. I wouldn't have stopped this time either, Brother Mitch, if it wasn't for the wife. The wife said, you ride past your brother's house all the time, you talk about him, and you never go sin. I said, it's a good reason why. But we stopped that time. I got a chance to hang out with my brother Mitch, and hang out with him for a little while. And we had a great time. Wasn't bad, and wasn't that good either. Because it's a constant reminder. It's like going back to my hometown in Richmond. Ain't bad, but it ain't good. What do I mean? Well, there's something called vibrations. There's something called energy. There's something called frequency. There's something called wave. Everybody emits an aura based upon their self-contained bias. It is a thought pattern that is unconscious, that's always running in the background. Some have a unconscious, self-contained pattern running in the background called Al-Qud. That's why I tell my son BJ. Now, Al-Qud, that's the frequency, the demonic name of the demon or the disposition that we call alcohol. Now, every negative habit pattern, all of the fruit of the flesh, whether we talk about gluttony, whether we talk about envy, whether we talk about strife, whether we talk about jealousy, all of those frequencies, wave vibrations, they have a magnetic social attached to them. Now, I don't know very Alkibulons, non-Alkibulons either, who understand that modern day psychology is yesterday's demonology. I don't know why, but the average Alkibulon, not you high vibration expressions of God on earth, can't connect the dots. Now, you can use either or. Remember, this is not a, one way. This is this is an all-inclusive message, Dr. Martinet. All-inclusive. There's more than one way to skin a cat, in other words. Now, I know that's contrary to most of our theology. But personal, real-life experience. I didn't read it in the book. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. Now, the way that I skinned the cat was through biology and psychology. Now, the way that you skin the cat may be through cosmology or spirituality, a.k.a. religion. Maybe you skin the cat and you're a Seventh-day Adventist. Maybe you skin the cat and you're a Jehovah's Witnesses or witness. Maybe you're a Muslim. You could be a Buddhist. In other words, there is different modalities or methods, just like breathing techniques. There's a plethora of breathing techniques. What is the point? Well, like Paul said, I have become all things to all men that I may reach, connect with them. It's this inability to use etymology, the ability to break down terms, frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations, to under, and understand that technically we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it in different ways. I think about my oldest brother, my other than not my stepfather, but my brother Glenn, who's a pastor. And it's interesting that a lot of times we'll talk, and we've had conversations, especially like his wife. Um, we have some vibrational disturbances sometimes because she believes that what I'm saying is different from what my brother is saying. Because I'm talking about science and my brother is talking about the Bible. As a pastor, of course, he's coming at it from a biblical perspective. Now, Dr. Martinet, I can come at it from a biblical perspective as well. The biblical perspective didn't really do it for me, Dr. Martinet, so I had to get a different perspective because that's the way God wired and designed me. Thankfully, I can do both. Some people can't. Overstand. Some people can't do biology and get to theology. Some people can't do theology and get to biology. Some people can't get to cosmology through theology. Some people can get to theology through cosmology. But Dr. Martinet, for whatever reasons, the big G, God, Yahushua the HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, gave me the mental capacity by which to over, under, and understand cosmology, theology, and biology. Bring it in a little neuroscience and all of the other different sciences. For whatever reasons, Brother Mitch, the shiznit makes sense to me, my brother. Now, I'm not going to shrink to fit into your box, nor am I going to pontificate to expand into your circle. Now, I used to, Dr. Martinet, when I was young, dumb, and stupid, because I wanted to impress other folk. I wanted to act like I understood, like, oceanography, even though I don't know nothing about oceanography. You take me to the ocean, I don't know nothing about oceans. But back in the day, I used to fake the funk because I wanted to fit in, because I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be loved. And so we give away our power that comes from our authenticity, that comes from our subject matter expert. Man, I wish to God I had figured this out earlier. Not that it's bad or good. I just thank God I've finally figured it out, Dr. Martinet. Otherwise, I'd still be going around the mulberry bush. And it behooves, especially as we're going into 2026, especially with the current political climate. This is the year of the 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 and 6 is 10. 1 and 0 is 1. Hero is Ra El, Father, Son, Spirit. The 3 are 1. We go into this new eon, age. Now we can get into the calendar. Really, the new year starts in March or the spring equinox. But that's another study for another time. We understand. But it's important that you establish a ruling disposition going into 2026 that's in alignment with your authentic assignment. Because you are in a war between D.I. and A.I. The war is between D.I. and A.I. and divine intelligence and artificial intelligence. Some people call D.I.S.I. spiritual intelligence versus artificial intelligence. So right now, as I'm speaking to you, you already have been given. Now there is a debate, which I understand, between whether or not, the spark is given when you receive when you get saved, when you receive the Holy Ghost. And receive, okay, another study for another time. Overstand. I'm not here to debate. I'm here to educate. All I know is that my disposition didn't change. Before I was saved, after I was saved, I always had the same awareness. I knew wrong from right when I was born, by the grace and mercy of God. Now, I worked in a supermax prison where I met men who don't have the governor. Now, science calls them NPCs. Now, you can't tell that to the average out of Cuban. In other words, you can't tell that to a black man in the church. They don't even know what an NPC is. They don't know what a non-player character is. They don't understand that there are some people, there's vessels of honor and vessels of dishonor, even though Brother Mitch is in the Bible. The Bible says Jesus came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, or the tribe of Judah. Okay, what about everybody else? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Now, if you're a Calvinist, you already understand this, because I used to be one. Calvin had Tulip. And Calvinists believe, whether it's true or not, another study for another time. But you should talk to one. Now remember, we've got Methodists, we've got Lutheran. These are all different self-contained biases. That's what a belief system is. But because it's self-contained, it creates a bias. Now, I don't know where and if you understand. Because there's a lot of confirmation bias. A lot of people's biases create confirmation. Ooh. That'll preach right there, Dr. Martinet. That'll preach. Now, I used to notice that. My first wife used to tell me that all the time. And I really didn't understand. She used to always say that you have a way of drawing to you the vibrational equivalent of you. Meaning, you have a way of creating a systematic algorithm that literally collapses waves, particles, to match your social interactions. In other words, just like cognitive anchoring. All science state that the experiences match your disposition. You cannot experience, or you cannot hold, you don't have the emotional capacity to hold. I can give you $1 million right now, but if you don't have $1 million mentality, the $1 million has to leave you. That means you got to spend it, you're going to give it away, you're going to get robbed. Some situation or event is going to happen to separate you from that $1 million unless you got a millionaire. You must become a mental millionaire before you can ever be a physical one. So you must hold a cognition. You must have the mental disposition before it shows up in the physical realm. So when you have a bias, you have a natural inclination for or against, based upon usually an unconscious, judgmental viewpoint, decision, personal belief, may or may not be based upon personal experiences. Sometimes there's a lot of social factors, like religion, that establishes a bias because a lot of the times the belief system is not based upon concrete evidence because the brain does not require evidence. I remember one of the biggest things I've learned was omission bias. We've all heard of lying by omission. Men do it all the time. Most men that cheat on their wives or a girlfriend or ladies, if you ever had a man that cheated on you, you know that he lied by omission. He didn't lie. He just left stuff out. Because you say, well, where'd you go? I went to the store. He just left out he went to the store to meet his side hustle. He went by her house first, knocked the boots, and then came home. But he also stopped by the store so that way when you ask him the question, this is how I learned when I worked in a supermax prison, how the inmates could pass a lie detector test. They lie by omission. They're not lying. They're just presenting only one side of the story. And so the average Elon who has religion doesn't have psychology. So when they come up against a psychological demon and the devil, they get their ass smoked. I just sit back and watch it every day. It is very interesting to see it happen in real life. And to be able to tell somebody, okay, like I used to tell Sister Emily, not to put her business out on Front Street, but excuse me, when she was going through her issues, and the only reason I'm talking about it is to tune in. And I got them back on track. And I don't know, it's been at least 10 or 20 this year. This was the year of saving marriages. I had to save my own though. That's why I know what I'm talking about. So when you over and understand the conscious versus the unconscious, then you can really get into confirmation bias because the brain will only allow in to the PFC or the prefrontal cortex is controlled, if you use that term. Reason and logic is controlled by the gatekeeper. In the garden or in the Bible, when Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden and there was a cherubim placed at the garden, that's all biological. It talks about that cherubim with his flaming sword. That flaming sword is a S word. It is words. A sword. You take the S and put it at the back. It's words. The reticular activating system. So the whole story is a story about how your reticular activating system is established when you get kicked out of the den of enclosure or the Garden of Eden, based upon why was Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden? Well, they established a self-contained bias because the serpent approached and then Eve gave to Adam. And they established a self. It wasn't source. It was self. And when they established self, they dropped in consciousness. When you get dropped in consciousness, you get kicked out of the garden. So you got to work now. And what happened? What did Eve? Pain, labor, childbirth. What was Adam? Till the soil, homie. Work with your back, bro. So when I see Negroes working hard, I know that they're not in the garden. Well, I don't work hard. I never worked hard. Other than when I was, before I came into the understanding that the Bible is an allegorical. Now, in addition to being based upon your belief. If you believe in a factual, or even though there's no last names, to none of the biblical characters. None. You haven't found a grave site. You haven't found so that's the button. That's for another time. Hey, bro, I'm down with you, bro. I've been there, done that too. That's why it's so easy to go to church. Because I was saying, I've done that too. But when you get to the point of when you read personally yourself, Hebrews chapter 6, and I talk about it every show. And I got a plethora of other scriptures. I just like Hebrews 6 because I ain't ran across a Negro yet that can debate me on Hebrews 6. Because it's not only in the Bible, it's also in your body. Because the body says the only reason that you transition is because of cheatism. All the good boys, all the one percenters, they're trying to figure out how to keep the children from unraveling. Let's look at that guy that's and the age and stuff. If they figure out, which it's not hard to figure out, it's in the Bible, it tells you how to keep the children from unraveling. That's why psilocybin is illegal in every state. Why is psilocybin illegal? Well, it's an anti-aging drug. Why did my boy Dr. John Allegro, who wrote the book Animal Scariot after he interpreted the Dead Sea Scroll, why was he unalived? Now ask the preacher. Guarantee you he don't know shit about that. I mean, not that he should. So once you over and say that my people perish for a lack of knowledge, why is psilocybin illegal in every, try to get it. Now, first of all, why is it called a magic mushroom? You know, most people don't even know what psilocybin is. Again, not that you should. I'm just giving an example of knowledge that is not shared. And even if it is, oh, brother, that's of the devil, my brother. Like when I started doing Deacon reports, and numerology reports. Well, the zodiac signs of the devil, my brother, you're going to die, you go to hell. Again, ain't bad, ain't good, it just is. And so when you start to, there is certain psychoactive ingredients in certain frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations. Okay, psilocybin that's found in quote unquote shrooms is a type of, what they call a psychotropic, drug. Along with, again, the animal scariot, and along with a lot of mushrooms. But the point, is about understanding the fact that you as an individual have been given everything that you need for life and godliness. So that particular plant extends the telomeres. It extends life. It creates and activates certain aspects of the brain that people experience during, like dementia. That's just an example of the power that was given to you that you can use. Just like in the book of Leviticus. Also that I talk about inside of my books and courses on theocentric nutrition. Now, am I some kind of a nutritional guru? Absolutely not. You give me a pack of Krispy Kreme donuts, Brother Mitch, I'm going to knock them out, brother. But I also under, and understand the importance of frequent intense training, rotation diet, food combining. All of those, again, or I'm going to use the word basic information that gives us the ability to understand that some of us are electric, some of us are magnetic, some of us are positive blood, some of us are negative blood. And your health is your wealth. To the degree. Again, what are we talking about? Where do I get that from? God gave it to us already. He put it inside of what I call the Bible diet. We can do what I call intention water. You can put your intention into the water. Like Dr. Emoto proved, you can speak, you can bliss versus bless your water. And change the molecular structure of your food and your water before you eat it. That's why we pray over our food before we eat it. But what are we talking about? Power. You have the power to change the molecular structure of water. It's been scientifically proven. If you say, I love you, to a glass of water, it changes the molecular structure of the water based upon all the research by Dr. Emoto. Just go to YouTube and type in Dr. E-M-O-T-O. But there's a Negro somewhere that will argue, Brother Mitch, right now. No, brother, That's a Negro. I can find a Negro right now that say that's of the devil. Guaranteed. Oh no, brother, well, that God that did that, he's going to hell. Guaranteed. Even though there's science that proves the benefits, like the hope molecules that's released during resistance training. You can go to Google right now and type in HOPE. Or you can just type in, movement is magic. Or you can just read all my stuff. I've been doing this for 30 years, Brother Mitch. Ain't my first rodeo, bro. But there's a Negro right now, Brother Mitch, that will argue and tell you, oh, the Bible says exercise profit is little, my brother. We ain't got time for that. That's of the devil. Even though the science and the proof is right there, not only in the Bible, but also in biology. It's also in cosmology. And we can go on and on with the fact that God has given us everything that we need for life. We got the power to trample on snakes and scorpions and all power of the enemy, and nothing shall by no means harm us. But we give away our power when we refuse to study to show ourselves approved, when we refuse to take the word and use it and break it down etymology and get into the meat of the message and not just the milk of the message. Then we experience what it says in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1. The Bible says that there are some of you who ought to be teachers, yet you are still learners. Some of you guys should be teaching, yet you're still sitting back. And there's a reason why you're sitting back, you're sitting on the sideline. Lack of clarity. Because a lack of clarity means you have a lack of certainty. And lack of certainty means you have a lack of confidence. So no one's going to go out in front of somebody because of the fact that visibility has the potential to create victims. Because the more visible you are, the more shots you take, the more confrontation. There's more people that's going to listen to you, and you will get the same stuff that I got. I used to get all kind of haters. I used to have my troll spray. I used to put on Facebook. I used to get trolls. Notice I don't get no more trolls no more. I don't get no trolls. I don't get nobody that wants to debate me. I don't get nobody who arguing with me. I talk about it all the time, but it doesn't happen anymore because I've been too long in the game. All the trolls, they left. I've been online. Everybody else takes, oh, brother, I'm taking a vacation. I'm getting off of social media. I'm a social media detox. How come? You got that detox something, that means that you're doing what? That means that you're letting social media influence you instead of you influence social media. I'm not on social media, so how can I detox from something when I am not consuming it? So I don't consume social media. I create social media. So it's totally different. Remember, you only have to detox from what you consume. So are you a consumer or are you a creator? So I create way more social media than I consume. So I pump out, I put more in than I take out. Because I know that most of the stuff on social media is not spiritually beneficial for me. So I spend my time in silence connected to source, and I take the downloads I get from source and I share them on social media. Social media is just a medium of exchange. So social media is not my source. Source is my source. So that's totally different from most other Cubans. So most Negroes don't have a divine connection with source because of a lack of etymology. Because if you have a divine connection with source, you have an internal guidance system. That internal guidance system sends you a personal download. And you get a frequency. We call it a feeling. That frequency, like when I go around people, and you can always tell it because this video I was listening to a few days ago talking about the chosen ones. And it just talks about a lot of the problems and benefits that it has from being a chosen one because you are overstimulated. because of your ability to pick up frequencies, waves, verbs, and vibrations. Now, I was born like that. So even as a little kid, I was way overwhelmed because I could feel way more than I could articulate. And so I would act out because I was in a space where I felt the negativity. So to this day, where I can walk into a room and I can feel whether I am being tolerated or whether I am being elevated. Now, the feeling doesn't affect me. Most empaths, which is the people that are like me who feel way more than they can express, they allow their feelings to override them. They don't have emotional management, which I had to learn. So I have the emotional capacity to hold emotions, but I made the mistake of thinking the emotion that I was feeling was real. So most people don't know, they don't understand. They think that the emotions that they are feeling they allow those emotions to affect them. So I can watch a negative event going way back to the doctor. Remember Rodney King when he got pulled over and the police was beating him up, blah blah blah. Well, back then that would affect me because I would take it in, I would absorb it. Now that's an event. That's a situation. Those events and those situations happen outside of me. They have nothing to do with what's going on inside of me unless I allow. So I've learned over the years, but I have to learn it though. I wasn't born with the capacity for emotional management and emotional regulation. Now I understand the power of being able to bring every thought into captivity and see if it is of God. So now I'm able to move beyond the basic teachings of repentance, faith, baptism, laying on of hands, Jesus Christ, resurrection, and the judgment. And I can go on towards spiritual maturity, not dwelling on the foundational concepts, but building upon them and gaining a deeper level of understanding and discernment, which is the New Living Translation of the Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you go to Hebrews chapter 6, 1, 2, and 3, read it in the NIV or the New Living Translation, where it just reads just like a book. It's going to be a little shocking. It's going to be a little, again, 30 plus years I've been saying the same thing. I ain't ran across a reverend doctor or bishop yet that can give me another deeper level of understanding, which says, therefore, move beyond. That word means to divorce. If you look it up in the ancient text, the elementary teachings about Christ and move forward to maturity. You cannot move to maturity talking about the elementary teachings. According to Hebrews chapter, I'm not the issue. Yeah, I read that in the Bible, and I've been reading it for 30 years. Probably still reading for another 30. Not laying again. So again, you got to lay it first. So after you lay it, so if you haven't laid it, okay, go find somebody and lay the foundation. But after you lay the foundation, like I got a house, I'm sitting in my office inside of my house. I am not sitting, nor am I trying to remove the tile off the floor to see the foundation. This house is on the foundation. I know it because I saw this house get built from the ground up. Even though I can't see the foundation anymore. I don't talk about the foundation. When people come over, they say, oh man, this is a beautiful home. I've never had anyone, Brother Mitch, since I've been living in this house, but I've never had anyone come in and say, Doc, that's a beautiful foundation, my brother. What is the, we never, ever talk about the foundation of this house. I've never heard a Negro or a non-Negro talk about the foundation of his house. The devil got everybody, man. I don't know nobody. You? Do you know any reverend, any doctor, or any bishop that talks about anything other than the foundation of Christianity? So the devil, if you want to use that term, the devil is able to keep everybody in groundhog state, to keep everybody broke, to keep everybody's marriage fucked up, to keep everybody inability to relate. Because every Negro I know is talking about the foundation. Do you know anybody that's not talking about it? Except maybe Brother Jibbiday. I talk to Brother Jibbiday every once in a while. The foundation. See, the enemy is not stupid. If you go back to Genesis, what did he tell Adam and Eve? He did not introduce anything. He didn't tell them anything. The devil uses good to destroy you. The devil uses God. He uses the truth to destroy you. The devil, everybody knows that, the devil is smarter. That's what the Bible, I'm just putting that out the Bible too. He said this, he's the most cunning. Anybody look at the definition of the word cunning? He's the most crafty. So the dude is good. So he told Adam and Eve, did God really say? He didn't say anything else. He said, did he say that? Or did he say? He just planted doubt. Doubt creates delay. That's it. So everybody has doubt. Nobody has certainty. So when I speak as one having authority. I don't have doubt, I have certainty. The beautiful thing I like about the world is collective consciousness, hive mind. So I understand when people say, well, Doc, if you such a guru, why do you even experience problems? I mean, you should be a multi-billionaire. You should be in perfect health. You should be in 98. I'm pretty close, but I experience problems because of, and there's 1,000 different. But once you see this, your life changes. I talked about the other day how they talked about how, 100% accuracy, if you are in an environment where you are the only person that frequency range, mass consciousness, collective consciousness, hive mind, the experiment that they did back in 1962 called the, what's the name of it, Big G? What's the name of it? I should wrote it down. They did it at Harvard of all places. They brought these people in and they said, hey, the person on the other side, you're going to ask them a question. If they get the question wrong, you administer a shock. If they get the question right, okay, you don't do anything. If they every time they miss a question, you increase the voltage. The voltage increases intensity also. But if they miss so many questions, they can get to a certain level of voltage. Excuse me, that if you keep shocking them, they'll die. Now, the people didn't know that the experiment was rigged. So that way it really wasn't a voltage. But the people on the other side were just given, they brought them in off the street. 100% of the people administered the death level voltage because of the people in the lab coat, the authority figures. When they looked back and said, he missed this question, but you said if I administer this level of voltage that the person could die, and I don't want to kill nobody. And then the guy was, hey, well, he missed the question, sir. You volunteered for this experiment. Volunteer for this experiment. So I need you to go ahead and, and the people would look. 100% of the people would administer, they would kill somebody just because of the pressure from someone who was in a perceived position of authority. They did this experiment over and over and over. Excuse me. They've done it in elevators. I've seen one where they did it in the office where everybody was sitting down and a buzzer went off and everybody stood up. Then another buzzer went off and everybody stood up. Y'all seen that? Y'all seen that TikTok video? And the first time people would just look at me like, what? Second time, third time. Eventually though, y'all heard of how they boil frogs? You put them in cold water, you turn the water up slowly. How to boil a frog, and then eventually, by the time the frog figures out that the water is boiling, it's too late. Well, the same thing happens to me, to you, and everybody. That's why you have to keep learning. You have to keep questioning the nature of your reality. Because I find myself having to come back and re-process a problem that I already solved 5 years ago, and I find myself back in the same problem again. Not because I did anything wrong. It's like the book of Job. People think, did Job do anything wrong? No. The devil said, hey, this dude over here, he's good because you protect him. God said, no, go ahead, touch him. You just can't kill him. So sometimes things happen only because, God's testing you, or you got to grow, or that's how you learn. Everything is not because it's your fault, but technically it is, because you still have to make a choice. You still have to make a decision. You still have to understand the game. What is the game? The game is to make sure that you come up lame. The game is to make sure that you do not experience life and life more abundantly, that you experience life, but you experience life hard, that you don't experience love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness. I don't care how much money you got, as long as you ain't happy. I don't care how great of a health is, as long as when you work out it's painful. I don't really care how many degrees you got, as long as you go to school, it sucks. I don't care how long you've been married, as long as y'all sleep in different rooms. So the devil don't care if you win, as long as you win in a mental state of hell. As long as you are operating and you can have all the money you want, you can be the wisest man on the planet. As long as you feel toxic shame and emotional pain, that was everything you want. Why? Because then you ain't asking for nobody else but yourself. So sure, you can have a big ass house. You can be sitting in that muck by yourself. You cannot be a positive light in this negative world. That was smarter than everybody I've run across. Why? Well, shit, he was smarter than me for 50 years. You know how long it took me to figure out this game? But the Jibbidays. Been on this planet for 60 plus, bro. And every day I wake up, I'm amazed at the sophistication of evil. Evil is freaking here. It's sophisticated. What you think is going on? Bro. Go about 7 layers in me. When you see something and the answer that you get, ask yourself why 7 times and then call me. Somebody slaps you, you should say why. Whatever answer you get, that ain't it. That's not why they slap you. They slap you because. Then you get an answer, then you ask, well, why did that? So you got to ask. According to modern psychology, if you ask something 7 times to get to the true cause. So that's what I do for a living. I do causality. I don't do morality. What causes morality? Get to the core. It ain't biblical. It ain't spiritual. It ain't going to get you into what, Christian folks call heaven. Because people do shit for different reasons. Most of them are not, quote unquote, benevolent. Because the cosmograptor is not benevolent. This is his world, bro. Y'all read 2 Corinthians 4? I read it. I wrote a whole book about it. See, I get into the etymology though. 7 layers deep, bro. The devil is good. That's why he runs this planet. I ain't mad at him. We should be better. Because Jesus said, the things I have done, you shall do. But everybody I know, they worship Jesus. They don't do Jesus. That's what the devil doesn't matter if you worship him. He worships him too. As long as you don't do though. Yeah. As long as you don't be. Nobody cares what you have. You just cannot be. That's why there's no Christian that walks around talking about, I am being God. No, they can't say that. Devil is not stupid. He will not allow you to get to that level of awareness. He will never allow you to get to a space where you can comfortably look yourself in the mirror and say the same thing that Jesus said. When you see me, you see the Father, because me and the Father are one. You can never be at that level. You don't believe me? Just try it. Watch how you feel when you say it. Watch how you feel when you embody it. Watch how you feel when you walk. Watch how you feel. Watch the energy. Remember, not other people, just yourself. In your own head, just stand in the mirror, look at yourself, and say, I am. Now start off easy like I did. Start off with say, I am an individual verse. I'm an individual expression. Say what the Bible says. I am an ambassador of Christ. I am a royal priest. Just say the basics, man. You can't even do that. Because something in your brain tells you, Negro, you ain't no royal priest. You see what you did yesterday? Yeah, but you ain't your behavior. Oh, snap. Preacher didn't tell you that. You have behavior. You do behavior, but you ain't behavior. You spirit. Did anybody read Romans 7? Anybody read Romans 8? I wrote a book about that too. So I had to go through all of these levels of awareness. That's why I've written so many books. Because of where I started from was, damn, yeah. Podunk, Texas, bro. I started from the gutter, from the basement. When my mom died, I was well done. I mean, I was lower than well done. That's why I'm in my own mental disposition, how I saw myself. I went to elementary school, this lady named Miss Tinsley. She reinforced my belief system that said I wasn't shit. Every day in school, I went home. And then the activities that Sister X, they used to come and pick us up on the weekends. Then my family members. Now, again, they did the best they could. They was at their level of awareness. Same thing like I did with my children. But it was wrong. I never told none of my children that you are a god and a goddess. I never told my children when they was little. I tell them now all the time. They're like, yeah, whatever, Dad. They don't believe me. They don't believe that they are individual expressions of God on earth. Because nobody tells them. So if you don't tell yourself, where are you going to hear it from? You think somebody's going to walk through the, hey, God, how you doing? Nobody walks around and says, hey, I've heard a few, conscious black folks talk about, hey, King, how you doing? And Queen and stuff, but they talking about melanin. Again, that's a level. But that ain't D level, that's A level. I mean, it's better than nothing. So the power has been given to us. And we gave it back. Because we were all raised, especially if we melanated. Come on, man. Come on. We're going to get into Willie Lynch. We're going to get into the psychological effects of slavery. Nah, we don't go there. That's a whole other study for another time. We're just dealing with we're just dealing with religion. We're just dealing with your culture. You're just dealing with your environment and your hood. Because there's a little voice in your head. And until we address that little voice and 5 different levels, there's no work. I can't gaslight you. And if I said anything today that made you feel anything other than love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, self-control, I apologize. But that's not my intent. My intent is whatever level that you are. I don't want you to change nothing. All I want you to do is when you pray, when you are meditating, when you are doing your Wim Hof breathing technique, when you're taking your cold shower, when you go outside and you do your earthing, when you do your sun gazing, however you detox and connect with God, all I want you to do is the same thing I do. If there is a God, and there is, we know that this stuff just didn't pop up here by itself. If this is a matrix, and basically, but this is a hologram, this is a holographic universe, all the physics and all the science say the same thing. They all say that the seen is being maintained by the unseen. They are all saying Hebrews 11, 1, 2, and 3. Everybody's saying the same thing. Now, surely, obviously they're using different words, but don't miss the forest for the trees. Every day, this is the secret sauce. This is how you walk in dunamis power. This is how, in the midst of extreme adversity, you're able to maintain divine intelligence, which allows you to override artificial intelligence. You're able to maintain authentic, and it overrides artificial. Because you have assurance of the things hoped for. You already got it. You're not trying to get it. So I'm not trying to manifest nothing. Brother Mitch, I'm done with manifesting, brother. I'm not trying to get anything, Brother Mitch. I have the assurance that the hope and the convictions that I don't see, that I can put myself in a state where I have already received. So I don't have to wish, I don't have to hope, I don't have to ponder, I don't have to fast, I don't have to pray. I can do all those things, but I don't have to. I know, because I've read it, and all the physics state that we live in a state of unlimited possibilities, unlimited potential. It exists in a wave. You're just riding the wrong wave, just based on the physics. But the Bible says that faith is what enabled the ancients to change frequencies and receive God's approval. That's the New Living or the New English translation of Hebrews 11:2. Let's read 11:1. Hebrews 11:1 in the New Living translation. The foundation of faith, which creates hope and belief, is unseen. The foundation of faith that is unseen, or the foundation of hope and belief that is unseen, it provides confidence in future realities and certainty about things that are not yet visible. New Living Translation, Old English Translation, Hebrews 11:1. Hope, belief, faith in the unseen provides confidence that the realities and the certainties of the things that are not seen will be visible. By having faith, confidence, surety, certainty in the things that are unseen. Let's go to verse 3. What is unseen? Well, see, faith is, I can't see it. I am unable to see it, but I believe it's there. Faith enabled the ancient figures to receive God's approval so that the unseen becomes seen. But verse 3, Hebrews 11:3. This faith provides certainty and understanding of creation, explaining that the visible world was brought into existence by God's spoken word and the pre-existing matter in the unseen world. So the unseen world is pre-existing matter. All pre-existing, like, see, you were predestined. So God knew you before you was matter. God knew you in your mother's womb. You've been predestined. We got predestination. So Hebrews 11:3 is basically explaining to me and you that the unseen creates and maintains the seen. We pull from the unseen and bring it into the seen. That's what it means. But you got to have assurance of things hoped for and conviction of things hoped for. In other words, unless you have assurance, not insurance, unless you are sold on stuff you can't see, unless you have conviction. Remember the word conviction means that you're a convict. Convict means that you committed a crime of believing, you believe so much, I'm going to send you to jail. That's a convict. A convict is somebody who's been convicted of a crime. So if you're not a convict of what you don't got, you can't have it. So that's what I do every day, Brother Mitch. That's what I do every day, Brother Jibberday. That's what I do every day, Brother Rich. That's what I do every day. All I do is I live in my desires fulfilled. See, when you understand God's creative work, when you understand that the basis of the entire New Testament is based upon this thing that we call faith. But faith is not like a blind leap. Faith is clarity that creates certainty, that gives you confidence that the thing that you can't see exists because God has already given it to you. That's why I started off today's message by saying, for it is God who gives you the power to get wealth. According to Deuteronomy 18. Now, we could sit here and we could just worship God and thank God for the power that He gave us. Or we can do what Jesus did. We can get off our aspiratus and we can use the power to manifest the life that God has designed and gifted us to live. I'm from the camp of using the power. I don't want to talk about the power. I don't want to pray about the power. I don't want to debate whether the power exists or not. I don't want to debate whether you should have the power or not. I don't want to argue and debate on how you receive the power. All I'm saying is I already got the power. Now, maybe I got the power from a way that you don't think I should. Maybe you don't even think I deserve the power. But since I know that according to all of the science, even the Bible itself, to him that acts like he got the power, God gives him the power. Now we just read that one, right? To him, we starting out talking about in Matthew 8:13. So in Matthew 18, remember Jesus said, let it be done just as you believed it would be done. Let it be done just as you believed it would be done. New Living Translation, Matthew 8:13. Then Jesus said unto the Roman officer, go back home because you believed it has happened. Because you believed it has happened. Because you believed it has happened. What if it was the other way around? Because you don't believe it ain't happened. Because you have not believed it has not happened. So if you read that same verse in Matthew 8:13 in the New English Translation, it gets into what I got said. Oh, Syrian, as you have believed, so will it be done for you. As you have believed. So that means the opposite is, as you have not believed, it is not done. And as you have believed, it has been done. Right there in Matthew chapter 8, verse 13. It's also in Mark, it's also in Luke, it's all through the whole Bible. The whole Bible is a book that talks about the fact it's done unto you as you believe. So I'm not saying that none of the different religious denominations are right or wrong. I'm just saying that the Bible says whatever your religious denomination believes, it's going to be done unto you as you believe. So why would I go into a hard denomination and believe a hard denomination? Because then I got to do hard stuff. So, but I'm going to find the easiest denomination. And I'm going to believe the easy stuff, and it's going to be easily done unto me because that's what the word says. It is done unto you as you believe. So I believe that all things work together for my good. I believe that money flows to me easily and all the rest. I believe that form me prosper, all who rise up against me shall fall. I believe that God has not given me a spirit of fear, but God gave me a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. I believe that greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. So I believe that I've been young and now I am old. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor a seed begging bread. So not only me, but my seed, Brother Mitch, taken care of, brother. That's what I believe. So the question is, what do you believe? Man, I love y'all, and y'all can do about it. We're going to see you mañana.